At Citi Field in New York, the New York Mets play the Miami Marlins in the first game of a doubleheader. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Altice One. Enjoy the ultimate viewing experience with Altice One, only from Optimum. By Triacura. Visit your local Triacura dealer or online at triacuradealers.com. By Geico, the #1 insurer in the New York market. And by Aetna Medicare Solutions. Go to SNY.TV now to hear Mookie Wilson talk about his total approach to health and wellness. And a pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Citi Field. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling with you today as the Mets and Marlins will try again today to play a doubleheader after the Mets won last night. Well, an hour ago, Mets captain David Wright appeared at a news conference to announce that he will return to the active roster for the Mets' final homestand. He will make one more start on Saturday, September 29th, and then David Wright will call it a career. Not officially retiring, but physically unable to play any further. And so it is both a happy and a sad day for maybe the greatest position player the Mets have ever had.
Well, he's definitely the greatest position player to only wear the orange and blue. I think the most compelling statement was that he wanted to put the uniform on again. He wanted to run on the field and kick third base. He wanted to say something to the umpire. That shuffle back and forth right before first pitch. But more important, I'm hoping that this gives him closure to his injuries that have never healed, closure to himself to put the uniform on again, closure to his family, so at some point his daughters will see him in a uniform.
Well, he's acknowledged that it's pretty much been agony to try and work his way back, that once he ramped up baseball activities, he found that he was really physically unable to perform at the level that he expected of himself. But David Wright's legacy goes beyond the fact that he was such a great player. He was maybe as good a teammate as the Mets ever had. He was as much a fan favorite as the Mets have ever had, and just a great example for everybody who wants to play this game and hopes to play this game in the future.
Well, I could add closure to Mets fans who witnessed such greatness on the field, but also such great class off the field. I mean, you mentioned it. Every baseball player, if you're growing up, just track David Wright and what he's done in his career, and you're going to have a great life.
Mets all-time hits leader and leader in so many other categories, but more importantly, the leader of the band. Since he came up in 2004 at the age of 21, David Wright, the epitome of what a baseball player should be, and truly the face of the New York Mets. David Wright gets one more chance to play on the Mets' final homestand. To you by Spectrum Mobile. Spectrum Mobile has unlimited talk, text, and data. Save up to 40%. Go to SpectrumMobile.com today. By Cadillac, visit CadillacTristate.com for exceptional offers. And by Good Humor, the official ice cream of the New York Mets. Purchase your 2019 Mets season ticket package today. Choose from full season, half season, or 20-game plans that include opening day and the Subway Series. Plus, for a limited time, receive an authentic or replica Mets jersey with your purchase. Purchase your plan today at Mets.com/ticket plans. Pitching matchup in Game 1 today. Steven Matz will make the start for the Mets.
Well, with Steven Matz, really the pitch count got him 103 pitches. Only allowed him the last 5 innings against the Philadelphia Phillies in his last start, with 19 punch-outs in his last 2 starts.
Sandy Alcantara will make his 3rd major league start for the Marlins. The Mets saw the first one, and he is impressive.
He is impressive. They got him from St. Louis in the Marcell Ozuna trade. He beat the Mets in his first start in the major leagues.
So Alcantara for the Marlins, Matz for the Mets. First of a doubleheader this afternoon at Citi Field. Mets and Marlins, all the action coming up on SNY. Right-hand batting lineup against Steven Matz in Game 1. Marlins will face 2 lefties today. Jason Vargas goes in the nightcap, but they'll put Isaac Galloway and Peter O'Brien into the lineup. Their first starts in this series. That has seen the Mets and Marlins split the first 2.
We see the Toyota numbers for Steven Matz, although all these starts happened in Miami. His last 3 starts against the Fish, 3-0 as Steven Matz. And defensively for the Mets in the infield, Jack Reinheimer gets the start at shortstop, Jay Bruce at first base, and in the outfield, kind of the names that we've seen all September long, Conforto, Jackson, and Nimmo.
Mets playing their 4th doubleheader of the season. They split each of the first 3. And as is generally the case when you've got a rescheduled doubleheader, particularly one that starts as early as today's, it is only a small smattering of fans on hand for the beginning of the festivities.
Well, this is the kind of day you want to be here at the beginning, right? You can say you lasted here the entire day.
Well, plenty of people lasted the entire day and night yesterday, sitting through a 5.5-hour rain delay, and kudos to everybody who stuck it out through that and through the game, which lasted until after midnight, after being originally scheduled to start at shortly after 4 o'clock.
Oh,
and that's the other thing about being in this small crowd. Yeah, everybody gets a baseball.
Nice.
That's 2 per family. Oh, was he offering to share? That's very nice. Joe Rojas will lead off for the Marlins.
Sharing is caring, Gary.
Rojas didn't play last night, 0 for 3 in this series, hitting .252 for the year. And Steven Matz starts the long day of baseball with a fastball that's fouled back, and we're underway. Rojas, Castro, and Real Muto for the Marlins, who start the day 30 games under 500, 57 and 87 for the year.
Have to go 6-12 in their last 18 games not to lose 100.
And Rojas pops one up in his shallow right. Nimmo coming on. Sunglasses not necessary right now, but he makes the play for the first out.
Sunglasses haven't been needed in a week.
No sun, all clouds, but chance of rain minimal today.
Don't even go there.
Here's Starlin Castro, 1 for 6 in the first 2 games of the series. And Matz gets ahead with a fastball, 0-1. Steven, over his last 4 starts, pitching to a 2.25 ERA. He has gotten back on stride after a midseason bobble. And he gets a swinging strike on the fastball up and away, and it's 0-2. That last start against the Phillies, it took him 103 pitches to get through 5 innings, but he did it successfully, and no decision game for him. Curveball fouled off.
Well, I think the biggest thing for Steven this year is he's going to get 28 to 29 games started, which will give him the experience, hopefully, for next year to have a full and fruitful season.
And Castro fouls one back. Of course, Matz's issue all year long, in good times and bad, has been figuring out a way to get through the first inning. He was able to do that successfully against the Phillies his last time out, worked around a double, but he's got an 8.42 first inning ERA. And he misses down with a curveball, 1-2. JT Realmuto waiting on deck.
A couple of reasons for that. When I watch Steven throw, I think he's a quiet kid, but inside he's got a burning kind of competitive fire, and I think he comes out pumped up, and that can sometimes lead to missing your spots.
And he misses that one just inside, 2-2. He's been working on throwing his fastball away more to the right-hand batters. Curveball fouled off.
That arm side fastball, Gary, early in the count is going to give him some one-pitch outs, I think, which will be crucial for him in his pitch count. I think also in his development, he's got to keep the ball in the ballpark a little better.
8th pitch of the at bat to Castro, and he hits one toward the middle of the diamond. Flores is there on the back end, and Wilmer throws out Castro for the second out. Wilmer Flores getting his first start in 8 days. Chance to play second base in the opener, giving Jeff McNeil a blow.
Once they moved Jay Bruce and gave him time at first base, Wilmer's time has dried up.
Now Realmuto has been held in check in this series, just 1 hit in 6 at bats. And he fouls that one off himself. 0-1. Marlins got shut out last night for the 12th time this year. They are the lowest scoring team in the National League, just 3.68 runs per game. And Zach Wheeler was completely dominant last night. We questioned when he didn't come out to pitch the 9th inning just why that might have been the case. As it turned out, Wheeler basically told Mickey Kello he was gassed after 8 innings.
Well, he was here at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, probably just mentally flushed with having to try to keep himself mentally into it once he finally took them out at what, 9:45 or whatever.
It's a shame though, 89 pitches through 8. You figure how often do you really get a chance these days to pitch a complete game shutout?
It would have been both of his shutouts would have been come against the Marlins.
Yeah, he had the one in 2014 down in Miami. That's still the only complete game of his career. 2-2, fouled back.
Thought you guys really captured Wheeler's brilliance and his use of the curveball last night. Boy, it was remarkable.
We have just been informed of a Marlins lineup change. 2-2 curveball outside. Apparently Austin Dean has been scratched, and Rafael Ortega is going to play left field and bat 8th. That is an after the fact scratch. In fact, after the Marlins lineup had already been posted. So something must have happened to Dean. There's ball 4 to Realmuto, and so the Marlins have the first base runner of the game. So scratch number 44, Austin Dean. Insert number 52, Rafael Ortega.
Maybe Dean's still arguing about strike 3 last night in his last at bat.
Oh, it was such an enormous strike zone being called last night by Adam Hamari, which you can understand under the circumstances, right? 5.5-hour rain delay, late start. Here's Brian Anderson. Today it's Tom Hallion, the crew chief, calling the balls and strikes. Shane Livensparger, who was the 5th umpire on the crew with the doubleheader. Umpires at first, Dan Bellino and Adam Hamari rounding out the crew. In doubleheaders, the home plate umpires get the other game off. Fastball for a strike to Anderson, 0-1. Anderson 3 for 7 in this series. He actually sat out a few innings last night. This kid's been playing virtually every day all season in his rookie year. I don't recall a rookie ever playing as many innings as Brian Anderson has played this year from day one. Only 4 games all year he hasn't started.
You mean like in the last 5-10 years? I mean, there used to be some rookies that would play some time, but
who would start on opening day and play every game all year? I mean, it's pretty rare, right?
Well, he was given an opportunity considering the fire sale that the Marlins had, and he's taken the most of that opportunity. Good for him.
And they've moved him around too. Third base to right field, now back to third base. Good slider by Matz, and he gets ahead in the count 1-2. Anderson 3 for 7 in this series, now hitting .272 for the year. He's had a really nice rookie year, which is going to get lost with the extraordinary years being put up by the much younger players, Acuna and Soto. He goes around in the half swing. Anderson is struck out, and Matz gets through the first inning unscathed. Mets come to bat in the bottom of the first with no score. Sitting out game one of the doubleheader, so Brandon Nimmo slides up to the leadoff spot. Jay Bruce, who hit a grand slam last night, slots in at number 2. Mats in the 8-hole. Jack Reinhardt again to start at short as the Mets go up against the 23-year-old Dominican Sandy Alcantara.
Well, got him in the Marcell Ozuna trade. To see his Land Rover numbers, he's going to be a good one. After he beat the Mets, he went on the DL with a light axillary infection. Axillary is the armpit area.
Under your arm, yeah.
Yep. And defensively, let's see if we got this now. Real Muto behind the plate. Peter O'Brien getting a start at first base. He had 30 home runs in the minor leagues. Rojas at short, and in the outfield, we got it right, guys?
Oh, our guys are so quick.
Ortega and left, Dean's out.
I mean, they took the photo, got it up there, and everything.
We've had some defenses without the photos this year.
I like it when we have the added graphics on the defense.
Yeah.
You know, the cannon, the horse, the ice cream scoop, the vacuum cleaner.
We don't even know half these guys.
The 5 tools. 5 tools is my favorite. The dancing tools. Brandon Nimmo takes a strike. We've had quite a year. I just want to say that.
And take that wherever you want to take it too, by the way. Come on, Gloria. He knows how to hit. He had a grand slam last night. He's fine.
I think he's taking her advice. And she's got the fedora going too, which is always big. Nice to see you, Gloria. Good to have you in the ballpark.
Jay Bruce, as Nimmo's up. Jay Bruce, with a lot of his teammates, almost all of his teammates were in on when David Wright had his press conference.
I think Gloria is her first name or her last name. Could be like Sic Transit Gloria. That's down the left field line and toward the corner. Bouncing around, and Nimmo will pull into second base with a leadoff double. So a fast start for the Mets. Nimmo aboard with his 25th double of the year.
Well, usually this pitch, it's hard to keep it fair. It will peel foul, but hit it on the nose enough to keep it fair past the glove of Ortega in left field. He's been smiling all year, hasn't he?
Happiest man in baseball.
He should be. What a year.
Here's Bruce, who hit the opposite field grand slam last night that broke the game completely open. His 7th career grand slam, his 3rd as a Met. 2 of them this year. And Alcantara misses low, ball 1. This is quite a deke, by the way, by Ortega, catching the ball off the back fence. Almost made it look like it was real, but Dan Bellino was right on top of it and called it a home run immediately. And Bruce takes a rip at 97 from Alcantara, and it's 1-1. Funny thing about Sandy Alcantara, he's had 2 big league starts. He's pitched well at both of them. The one against the Mets back in June, and then 8 days ago against the Phillies. But his minor league numbers are a little underwhelming, if only because his strikeout numbers are strikingly low for a guy who has his kind of stuff. He's averaged less than 7 strikeouts per 9 innings in the minor leagues this year.
I was talking to some people that I knew about a month ago about Alcantara, about his minor league numbers, and they said that even though he didn't walk a tremendous amount of people, he spent a lot of the year 2-0 and 2-1 against hitters. So maybe that's why the strikeouts were down.
When he faced the Mets back in June, he walked 5 batters in 5 innings. There was an issue that day. Under his glove, fielded by Rojas. He'll go to first with it. 6-3 putout moves Nimmo over to third with 1 out. I don't know what Rojas was thinking, looking at third.
A little false hustle, but you know, anyone who has any kind of hustle at 310 will take.
Well, after what happened early in the game last night with the Marlins, with Starlin Castro forgetting that he had to throw the ball home on a relay, I mean, that kind of thing, it was they looked a little ill prepared after sitting around for 5.5 hours. Marlins will bring the infield in with Wilmer Flores at the plate. Wilmer's had just 1 at bat in this series, his first start since the 5th of September. And he takes a slider out of the strike zone for ball 1.
Certainly has to be an analytics thing. Never did I ever see the infield in the first inning in a 0-0 game with 1 out, ever.
And now you see it all the time.
All the time.
I think it comes down to the fact that the downside, right, is that somebody hits a ball through.
Yeah, it's a base hit.
And it's a single.
Yeah.
And singles are devalued in the game today.
I agree.
Particularly if you have a guy at the plate who doesn't run well, right? I mean, their stolen bases is less prevalent in the game anyway, but if you have a guy who, if he gets on base, isn't going to turn it into 2 bases, then the downside risk becomes less.
Yes, yeah, no, all those things are factors. I just know, you know, the old thought was you don't want to get your pitcher where he has a big inning in the first inning.
Well, especially if you have the cleanup hitter up next, the presumption is, right, you give up a hit here, and that guy hits a 2-run homer, all of a sudden it's 3-0.
I'm open-minded. I mean, even though that was the thought for so long, doesn't have to be the prevailing thought. I just would hate to face the third place hitter with the infield in first time through the lineup. Makes it very difficult and much easier on the hitter. But strikeouts are up. That's a big part of it too.
3-2 coming to Flores, and Wilmer gets it on the ground to third. Anderson holds the runner, gets the out. Infield in pays off. 2 away.
Well, that was the case of Wilmer trying to have a 2-strike approach, put the ball in play with 2 strikes, but he swung at ball 4. Not easy to. I mean, this ball is on the ground, still able to make contact, probably because it's more over the middle than inside. But ball 4 nonetheless. I mean, easy up here to say. Shouldn't have swung, but.
Well, it was almost on the ground, and then he made sure it stayed on the ground. So 2 out. Nimmo's still at third, and here's Conforto. Michael had his 3-game home run streak end last night, but he did have a hit and a walk. And now Gloria is providing counsel to Todd Frazier.
Well, Bruce, you know, grounded out, so I would not pay attention, Todd, if I were you.
Well, it's good to see that Gloria has expanded her mentorship to include Todd Frazier.
Gloria.
Conforto fouls out. Mets waste the leadoff double by Nimmo, and Gloria's got more work to do. No score after 1. Second inning, Lewis Brinson leads off for Miami and takes a fastball strike from Steven Matz. Brinson 1 for 7 in this series, but that one was enough to beat Jacob deGrom on Tuesday night.
Well, if there's a way to measure comfortability, Brinson looks so much more comfortable than he did in his first stint in the majors.
And the numbers reflect that since he got back from a stint on the disabled list on September 1st. He's hitting .364 after hitting under .200 for most of the season. He's been able to climb above the Mendoza line. 2-2 to Brinson, Peter O'Brien on deck, and then Isaac Galloway for the Marlins in the second. Miami doesn't play home doubleheaders anymore, you know.
They don't.
They have a roof. So all their doubleheaders now are on the road. And a good curveball by Matz. He gets the foul tip from Brinson for strike 3. That's his second strikeout of the day.
Let's look at the spin on that breaking ball as it comes out of the hand of Steven Matz. Starts up in the strike zone and just under the bat. Good rotation on the breaking ball by Matz. Late break and sharp break, something we didn't see in the first half of the season.
Here's Peter O'Brien. O'Brien making just his third start for the Marlins. They picked him up in a cash deal from the Dodgers in June. He's bounced around after originally being drafted by the Yankees. And some big league time with the Diamondbacks in 15 and 16. And at age 28, still a rookie who's trying to stick.
30 and 86 this year. 30 home runs, 86 RBI in AAA.
Flies this one deep to right center. Back goes Jackson onto the track right near the wall, and it's out of here. Peter O'Brien hits his first home run of the season, and the Marlins jump out to a 1-0 lead.
He just muscled that ball out. I mean, that ball he hit deep in the strike zone, didn't catch it out in front, and just muscled it out there. One of those guys that always has been a home run hitter. He's never really had a position. Started out as a catcher and hit that ball straight in the air and muscled it out of this ballpark.
He had 6 home runs as a Diamondback. Now he has his first as a Marlin. Here's Isaac Galloway taking the pitch high.
Look at this swing. Let's see how deep it gets. I mean, that's pretty late. That's almost on the plate.
Well, the Marlins could use a little more of that. They're dead last in the National League in home runs. But it's kind of what they expected this year after dealing away most of their premier players. And Galloway hits one deep to left, and that ball is gone. Back-to-back home runs. This one goes in the second deck. Galloway's third home run of the season. And Matz has given up back-to-back bombs, and the Marlins lead 2-0.
Well, I said earlier that one part of the game that Steven's got to get better at, you know, holding on runners and all those things, but keeping the ball in the ballpark, he's going to have to do a better job at. 24 home runs now allowed. And this contact more like a home run swing out in front. That ball was down and crushed by Sir Galloway.
Well, the 4th time this year the Marlins have hit back-to-back home runs. And now Rafael Ortega, who was a late addition to the Marlins lineup, late as in after the game had already begun.
That's as late as it gets.
Breaks his bat, rolls one out to Flores. Wilmer with a quick toss, and he gets Ortega for the second out.
What's a second home run? Pitch by Matz is a changeup, and it's down. Fooled a little bit as Galloway out in front, but when you have young players with a lot of promise, they can sometimes hit those pitches down, but middle out of the ballpark.
Now the pitcher Alcantara looking for his first hit. bunts at strike 3, and the side retires.
It's the second time in this series a pitcher has done that.
Marlins hit back-to-back home runs against Mats, 2-0 Miami.
Those two players, one of the most amazing games I've ever seen was the guy on the left, Mark McGuire, in Fenway Park off Zane Smith. His first 3 times up, first pitch each time of that bat, hit the ball onto Lansdowne Street. 3 pitches, 3 home runs, first 3 at bats.
It might have been scary to watch.
Yeah.
Scary to watch the Oakland A's soar through the standings in the American League this year. Now just a game behind the Yankees for the first wild card spot after winning their 6th in a row over Baltimore last night. Todd Frazier leads off the home second against Sandy Alcantara.
Best story in baseball to you, the Oakland A's?
They have been a remarkable story, but to me the Tampa Bay Rays are right behind them.
Yep.
15 games over 500 with that unit.
Against that division. In division, you're playing the Yankees and Red Sox.
And, you know, with the novel approach that they've taken to pitching, although, you know, the funny thing is, in a year where they have invented the opener as their modus operandi, they may have the Cy Young Award winner.
That's right.
In their, you know, lone full-time starter. Frazier pops one up, and O'Brien grabs it in fair territory for the first down.
Well, they needed Blake Snell to have his kind of year for that opener to kind of work. I know that a lot of people disagree with me, but look at their numbers as far as their team won loss with the opener. It's more around the 500 mark. So Blake Snell's been a big part of their 15 games over. What is he, 19-5?
19-5, 2.03.
Ooh.
I mean, just behind Chris Sale for the American League ERA lead. And, you know, with Sale having been on the DL so long, he's going to barely have enough innings to qualify. If he does, Sale's going to face the Mets on Sunday, and he's going to throw 3 innings, they say, after throwing just 1 his first time back. Jackson lines one to center, and Brinson barely has to move to grab it 2 out.
And Kluber's last 4 or 5 starts, ERA over 4.5.
So quickly 2 out and nobody on, and now Kevin Plawecki, who homered in the opening game of this series. Now the Mets haven't been to Fenway in 9 years.
In the Santos age.
The Omir Santos game, one of the funnest games we have ever done since SNY started.
It's one of my top 5 easily.
2 out, top of the 9th. Omir Santos hits the go-ahead home run off Jonathan Papelbon. And then in the bottom of the inning, was it Ramon Martinez playing shortstop for the Mets? Makes a great play. They get a force at second. Luis Castillo might have come off the bag, but they called him out. And Jonathan Papelbon, after giving up the homer to Santos, comes charging out of the dugout in protest. And you and Keith both said simultaneously, "Sit down." It was just a great moment.
It was.
2-1 to Plawecki. And he jumps back 3-1.
I don't know if you remember, but Castillo, that ball was in the dirt. He had to dig it out.
Oh, here's the play.
Oh, way to go,
and it was
guys.
Jason Bay who hit the ball. Oh, it was David Wright who made the play. There was another Martinez play in that inning, though.
Yeah. What a play. Martinez went in the hole in that inning and made an amazing play.
Do we have the footage, though, of Papelbon coming out of the dugout? Here we go. This is the best part of the whole thing. Sit down. There's ball 4 and Plawecki's home with the 2-out walk.
You know, occasionally when Keith and I are in the booth, we say stuff that we would say if we were sitting on the bench, minus the expletives. So that's what you would say on the bench if you were a player.
Thank goodness, minus the expletives. We need to keep you guys around.
That's right.
So now Steven Matz will bat, hitting in the 8th spot today. Just 3 for 41 at the plate this year. And he drives one to deep left, and forget that. Steven Matz drills a home run, his first big league home run to tie up the ball game. And he got every bit of it. His 113th major league at bat, his first big league home run.
Well, I've honestly been at a loss why, not that Steven would hit the ball in the ballpark, but why he doesn't hit more, because I think he's the most natural hitter of all the pitchers. I really do agree. I really find that so athletic, and he showed you what he can do right there.
Well, we saw in his first big league game what he could do with the bat. He hasn't done a whole lot of hitting since, but that was crushed.
Alcantara with the ball up and in, and he was up to the task. I mean, this is it's a hitter's home run, distance-wise.
Well, it's been a home run hitter's game so far.
Contact right slightly under that baseball. I don't know what they're worried about, Brandon. That ball's out of here.
He had the perfect launch angle. Strike 3 called, and Reinheimer's out on strikes to end the inning. But the Mets get even on a 2-out walk and a 2-run homer off the bat of Steven Matz. Matz joining the big boys. First Met home run since Seth Lugo last year, and this game's tied 2-2. his office after his cameo as a slugger. That Mets home run means City will donate enough for No Kid Hungry to provide 20,000 meals to kids in need. So back even 2-2 as we start the third. Top of the batting order, Miguel Rojas leads off, and Mets makes him move his feet for ball one. Rojas flied out to right field his first time up. Rojas, Castro, and Real Muto second time around the batting order for Mets. Fly ball out center, and Jackson is there. One out. Science of Baseball brought to you by Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. More science, less fear. Let's look at the Steven Matz changeup.
You know, I talked about it before. Turning it over means really kind of pronating your arm, your elbow, and at the very last minute you try to get a little extra movement on your changeup. The only problem is if you start to turn it over a little early, it'll flatten it out. You really have to wait till the very last minute to turn it over. Most guys, when they throw their changeup, Gare, most guys when they throw their changeup, the grip solely is going to make the changeup be the pitch you want. But when you get ahead of a hitter, you'll sometime at the very last minute turn it over just a little more so you get a little extra movement going for the strikeout. If you start that too early, ends up as a flat pitch. If you start it here instead of here, it ends up being just a flat pitch, and Galloway hit it out. So, you know, that happens to pitchers when they're trying to make it nastier than it usually is. Sometimes you get hurt by it.
If you turn it over enough, does it become a screwball?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You can. I remember when I couldn't learn the circle changeup in AAA. Ground ball to second here by Castro. You see the grip. See the grip he has back in his hand. He has his thumb tucked. He doesn't have his forefinger and thumb attached. So that's a little different. And when I was in the minor leagues in AAA, I had trouble because I did just what Steven did there. I would always try to turn it over too early, and it would flatten out. So Al taught me Al Jackson taught me the screwball, and it was a great pitch. And at that time, I don't know if people will remember Norris for the Oakland A's.
Mike Norris.
Mike Norris had a great screwball, and it was a pitch of the day. So I said, boy, if I learned that pitch, but it would hurt my arm. So I had to stop throwing it.
Matz quickly ahead on Real Muto, 0-2. Well, I know they used to show pictures of the great Giants pitcher Carl Hubble, who was famous for his screwball, and basically his arm was permanently turned out away from his body. Jackson to the edge of the warning track to reel in the Real Muto fly ball.
Didn't they call his the fadeaway?
5 straight strikeouts in the All-Star game. 2-2 game in the third. home run list, 241 behind David Wright.
You know, it's interesting. In the press conference today, David Wright said one of the things he'll miss most, just talking baseball with the players on the bench. He is a real, closet kidder, David.
Oh.
He loves to ride
Trash
people.
talker.
Trash talker.
Absolutely.
He's great. And he's trash talking Matt right now after his first dinger.
Well,
they're going to, Jake and Wheels and all those guys, they're going to miss him a lot.
You know, it was interesting when David was talking about his current teammates and the guys who he had bonded with. First guys he talked about after Jose Reyes were the pitchers.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting because he's always been a guy who goes across that divide that sometimes exists in clubhouses between position players and pitchers.
That's right. Keith was like that. Keith loved being around pitchers on and off the field.
Nimmo bounces one toward the middle, and Rojas is there to sweep it up. And there's the first out in the bottom of the third.
I think a lot of that has to do with is that great everyday players really respect what it takes to play 9 innings and to be an everyday guy out there. And it's really hard to have those moments with everyday players. You can certainly have it with the pitchers on their day off because they're ripe for a good needling.
In other words, they have a lot of time on their hands.
They do. Lead the league in sunflower seeds.
Here's Jay Bruce with one out, and he goes after an outside fastball, 0-1. I thought it was interesting. There were so many things that transpired during David's press conference today. I think what a lot of people will take away is just how emotional he was. I mean, he was fully in tears talking about his family, talking about his experience, talking about leaving his career behind, which he's going to do after he makes this last start on the 29th. But also the fact that so many of his teammates were in that room and found it important to them to be there, even guys who have never been his teammate when David has played a game.
Yeah.
Roll to the right side, and Castro throws out Bruce, 2 out. I mean, guys like Jeff McNeil and Tomas Nido, guys who never played with David Wright, yet they were in that room because they felt the importance of the moment.
Guys, you're right. Guys who haven't been able to see what he could do on the field when he was at his best. I think because he is so pervasive throughout the organization. People know David Wright whether they just start in low A ball or if they're in Triple A. David Wright epitomizes what it is to wear the orange and blue.
And David was talking. He was asked about what his future might be, and he said, I don't know, but baseball is so important to me. And he was talking about playing on rehab and talking to 18-year-olds in the minor leagues and how much he really enjoyed sitting and talking baseball with those young players, which might give you a window into what's to come for him. Flores grounds out, 1-2-3 inning for Alcantara, still 2-2 after 3. Now available at a lower price for $25.99. Watch every out-of-market regular season game. Plus, get a free subscription to MLB At Bat Premium. Blackout and other restrictions apply. Visit MLB.tv to take advantage of this limited time offer. Brian Anderson leading off for the Marlins in the 4th inning in a 2-2 game. So we were talking earlier about Brian Anderson and how much he has played in his rookie year.
Yeah.
So he's now at 1,243 innings entering today. And our ace statistician Russ Relkin went back and Russ Relkin, he has moved to a new chair. He is now our ace statistician. There he is.
He was sick and tired of not being able to watch the game behind the wall.
So he's moved to a much better seat, and he has already contributed to the cause with this note. In 1982, Johnny Ray, the rookie second baseman for the Pirates, played and started 162 games as a rookie. 1,453 innings. That is the record for a rookie. I mean, that's almost unfathomable that anybody would start 162 games these days, but a rookie from day one.
Johnny Ray was a good player. Left-handed hitter. He was their second baseman when I first came to the major leagues. Leadoff hitter a lot of the time. It was some lean years for the Pirates in those early 80s, mid 80s too.
Hooked in the air to left, and on comes Conforto to get it. And Anderson retired one out. Was he there until Jose Lean took over the position?
For the most part, yeah. Jose Lean knocked him out of that position. Johnny Ray was originally drafted by the Houston Astros, traded to the Pirates with Randy Neiman, who ended up becoming a Met, left-handed pitcher for Phil Garner. That's how he got to the Pirates.
By the way, Ray did okay that rookie year. He hit 281.
Nice.
Starting 162 games. Those Brinson takes a strike. Brinson struck out his first time up. Gloria providing the bat boy with instructions as well now.
That's one of those. I guess I had to laugh.
Two balls and a strike to Brinson. You're flying low today, Ronnie.
Yes.
The open must be over.
Cloudy.
3-1 to Brinson.
Pretty loud at that open too.
Not when the roof is closed. They have a roof over there. Bounced in the hole at short. Running around it is Reinheimer, and he throws out the speedy Brinson. 2 out. Verizon trivia question. Steve Henderson, who wore number 5, by the way.
That's right.
Second to the Rookie of the Year voting in 1977 after the Mets got him for Tom Seaver, who won 1977 National League Rookie of the Year. Odds are it was a Dodger, because they won it every year in those days. Peter O'Brien takes a strike. O'Brien homered to right center. His first home run as a Marlin, his first time up. And the curveball misses down 1-1. I'm informed it is not a Dodger.
Really? Well, we were just talking about the Pirates.
So it wasn't Steve Howe, Rick Sutcliffe, or any of the guys who. Steve Sachs.
Sachs was 80s, yeah.
Well, there were 5 in a row, and then they had another string of 5 in a row later, including Piazza and those guys. Lifted to left, and Conforto on the warning track reels it in. O'Brien stays in the ballpark this time, and Matz has retired 8 in a row since giving up the back-to-back home run. Still 2-2. Slow Motion is brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. Michael Conforto leads off the home 4th inning against Sandy Alcantara and takes a breaking ball up and away for ball 1. Conforto fouled out to third base his first time up. Conforto, Frazier, and Jackson for the Mets in the 4th. So far it's a DeGromian game. The pitcher has driven in the only 2 runs for the Mets. And Conforto rolls one down to first, and O'Brien takes it himself, 1 out. So Alcantara, true to form, has not been striking people out, but he's been getting tons of ground balls.
Lots of soft contact other than the Mets home run.
Only has 1 strikeout through the first 3 1/3. Todd popped up his first time up. It's amazing how you can hear things in the ballpark on days like this that you don't ordinarily hear.
That's right.
For instance, when Galloway hit the home run, the second home run against Mats, and hit it off a seat in the second deck, you could hear the seat from where we sit.
That's right.
It would never be the case on a normal day.
That's right. You can hear, you know, the people that are louder with their comments. You can hear each and every comment. Like that guy.
Or Gloria.
Gloria. If someone wanted to call you a bum today, you'd hear it. You're a bum.
There's ball 4, and Frazier's on with a 1-out walk. Second walk given up by Alcantara. Oh, Steve is doing some investigative reporting here.
No, they just asked Steve to keep Gloria away from the players while they're getting ready to hit.
I think he was trying to find out if she had an extra fedora for him. Now Austin Jackson, who lined out to center field his first time up. And he takes a strike.
Team's going to Boston tonight after the game.
Means Austin Jackson will be back at the site of his greatest catch.
That's right.
Remember the one where he flipped into the bullpen?
He was with the Indians, right?
Mm-hmm. Remember the first time we went there? I forget what year it was. Was it 06? Must have been 06.
Yeah.
With SNY. The catch that Coco Crisp made against David Wright.
Yes. He had a great series, Coco Crisp, that series.
That series was also, as Frazier takes off, the throw by Realmuto on a hop, and Frazier's out. Not a good jump for Todd, and Realmuto, even with the 1 bounce throw, got him by a healthy margin for the second out.
Yeah, I think that was a hit and run. Does he look in? Yeah, he looked in. Hit and run. So you got to make contact if you're the hitter. Jackson wasn't able to. Dead duck for Frazier. I mean, this is picky, but that's not a great tag in today's game. You gotta get down low. There's the replay. You know, it's just in today's game with the replay, you got to get. You can't be lazy. You got to swipe that tag in front of the bag.
So often we see fielders reaching for the man they're trying to tag rather than getting the tag down at the bag and letting them slide into it. Jackson strikes out. Second one for Alcantara. 2-2 after 4 in game 1. Frazier tagged out by Castro.
See how 2 hands is nice, but you got to slap that tag down right in front of the bag. He should have been out by 3 or 4 feet, but he ends up being out by just like 6 inches. So he's out by 6 inches. Could have made that a play that there's no ifs, ands, or buts if you're Castro. You know, it's picky and it's late in the season. Both teams are going nowhere. But you know what? You practice before the game because you want to practice so you're never wrong. People always think you practice so you'll be right. You practice so you'll never do anything wrong.
Did you see the specter that just passed in front of us?
Oh, I did.
I mean, he walked in front of us like a looming Goliath. And there he is, getting ready for his second game appearance.
Right.
Hiding out with cameraman Al.
He really likes Al. He's got feelings for Al.
I mean, today's like the match game. You get Steve and Gloria, and get Keith and Al.
Did you tell him ties in the second game?
Oh, he'll be ready.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He's fully versed in the sartorial schedule. It's ball 4 and Galloway is on with a leadoff walk. Well, Steve has done his investigating and he has a report about Gloria and her conversations. Steve.
Guys, this is Gloria. This is my good pal Gloria. She comes to 75 games a year. Has been doing it for the last 32 years. Now, first of all, what was she saying to Jay Bruce, to Todd Frazier? She had just met them a few months ago. They actually did a feature on her on CBS, and she wanted to make sure that those two remembered who she was, which of course she did. Gloria is very memorable here, very tough to forget, but she's got an incredible story. Used to be a huge Brooklyn Dodgers fan as a kid, would take the trolley out to the stadium all the time, and was devastated when the Dodgers moved out to Los Angeles. Swore off baseball, but Ron, we should credit you and your teammates for bringing her back to the game. In 1986, the law firm that she was working at convinced her to come to one game to watch you guys play. She loved that team so much that night that she bought full season tickets the next day and has been coming, like I said, to 75 games a year every single year since. And she comes alone. She came for the first 11 years with her husband, but as she said, he's a Yankees fan, so after 11 years, he wanted to stop coming. So she comes out here every single day. They live on Long Island. She's one of the first in the ballpark every day. One of the most recognizable figures out here at Citi Field.
That's great. These are the fans you got to get to know. I mean, just diehards.
It's the bedrock of the franchise.
Oh, diehards. Right? Love it.
Double play ball. Reinheimer with the flip. Flores with the turn, and the 6-4-3 double play erases Galloway. 2 out and nobody on. We were very happy to feature Steve and Gloria on the Kiss Cam a moment ago. Gloria 1, Steve nothing. So 2 out and nobody on. Sandy Alcantara, who struck out his first time up. And he takes a strike from Matz. Steven, when he gets in a groove, works as fast as any pitcher in the game today. Not even pausing for the jet flying overhead. And he strikes out Alcantara for the second time. That ends the top of the 5th. Halfway through, tied at 2. When the Mets play the Marlins at 7:10 for Fan Appreciation Weekend. After the game, fans will enjoy a fireworks show that lights up the Citi Field sky, presented by Verizon. For tickets, visit Mets.com/tickets. I would imagine that the ticket demand for Saturday, September 29th is going to skyrocket.
Yes.
With today's news regarding David Wright, who intends to start his final big league game that night. Kevin Plawecki leads off for the Mets in the home fifth and takes ball one from Alcantara. The word is that David will be activated at the beginning of that homestand and presumably be available. But given the machinations he has to go through to get himself ready, I think it's probably hard to envision him actually playing before that Saturday game, or a pinch, like in a pinch hitting role. I don't know whether that's even feasible. But I guess that's going to be up to David and Mickey Callaway to try and figure out.
I think he's like a great tenor who's going to appear on Saturday night. He's going to work all week to get ready.
I think that's right. And David even acknowledged, he was asked, what do you envision for that last game? You're going to take an at bat and leave. You're going to take 2 at bats. And he said, I really don't know, because he said it's been such a struggle and so taxing just getting through games in the minor leagues that he's going to prepare himself as best as he possibly can and see what happens.
3 times in his career, played 160 ball games. Whoa.
He was asked, given the fact that he had such a great career, 7-time All-Star, but that clearly some years have been stolen from him, whether, what are his feelings about that? Does he feel blessed or somehow cheated? And he said, well, the one thing, that sometimes I think about is, should I have made that diving tag on Carlos Lee? Remember when he fractured his back and then played for 2 more months, and that was really the start of the cycle that led to all the injury problems with the spinal stenosis and the neck and then the shoulder and everything else that has prevented him from playing a game for the last 2.5 years.
He also gave a little jab to Jonathan
Yes.
Neese. He said, boy, I think about if I had, hustled over to tag Carlos Lee, or maybe Jonathan Neese could have covered. I thought that was fun.
Plawecki goes down on strikes. 3rd strikeout for Alcantara, and that's the first out of the home fifth. Well, 20 minutes after this one ends, second game of the doubleheader will feature a couple of guys who've been sitting around waiting for a couple of days. Jason Vargas will go for the Mets. Jeff Brigham, his second big league start, will pitch for the Marlins.
Vargas started out with the Marlins, 4th round pick, 2006.
Well, here is Matz, who clubbed his first big league home run to give the Mets their 2 runs in the second. See what he has for an encore. He's going to get breaking balls now.
Well, if you only saw this and didn't know what Steven Matz did for a living, he'd swear he was a hitter. It's as good a swing as you're going to get.
Hey, it was always his blend to be a first baseman. Flies this one out to center field, and Brinson jogs in to get 2 out.
The coaches reacted to that home run by Matz like someone had him in the pool. I said Vargas was a 4th round pick in 04 by the Marlins.
That came up in
06.
06.
Yeah. 05, 06.
05 maybe.
Yeah.
Traded to the Mets in 06.
Concha's got some nice poise. 23 years old, just a week ago.
Jack Reinheimer was called out on strikes his first time. Reinheimer making his 5th start for the Mets. Came over in a waiver deal from Arizona at the end of July and getting some playing time. Takes the slider out of the zone, 2-2. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Jim Beam, the official bourbon of the New York Mets. Do you have a lucky number? It's a 2-2 game. There's 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 outs. Each team has 2 hits.
Walt Weiss used to call it the monkey claw.
Why?
2s all around the board. I don't know why. He used to just call it
monkey claw?
the monkey claw. 2s all around the board.
Gotta look that one up. Reinheimer lines out to center. We're through 5. Still tied at 2. Sixth inning, Steven Matz starts his 3rd tour of the Marlins batting order. Miguel Rojas leads off. Rojas been up twice, fly to right, fly to center. Matz has given up only 2 hits. They were both home runs. They came back to back in the 2nd to Peter O'Brien and Isaac Galloway. Matz then hit a 2-run homer of his own to tie the game, and it's stayed that way ever since. Rojas, Castro, and Real Muto against Matz in the 6th.
Sharp today.
Have we gotten so far away from the Shea days that players and pitchers don't step out or step off when the planes fly over?
I think so.
I mean, it used to be an automatic response, right? Except for a few guys. Most of them would step out when the sound started to roar overhead.
But not only was the sound, but you have to remember, Gary, there wasn't a scoreboard in center field, in right center. So you would see the airplane flying right across where the batter's eye would be.
So it was much a visual as an oral distraction.
Yes. Keith said something interesting that Rusty told him, that he said it made it difficult in the outfield because you couldn't hear the crack of the bat, how hard the ball was hit.
Which is why Rusty never stepped out. He felt it was to his advantage to hit while the planes were flying over. Rojas taps one back to Matz. Nice short hop pickup. 1 out. And now a quick message from your Tri-State Porsche dealers. Murphy claimed that the airplanes had a significant effect on his hearing over the course of the years that he worked at Shea Stadium. One hopper down to third. And Frazier takes care of Castro, and Matz has 2 quick outs in the 6th. I find in this business a small amount of hearing loss is sometimes a good thing.
Well, it's interesting. On our boxes, there is a knob that you turn. So you turn it to your right. So if you go by a clock, mine is at 9 o'clock. Yours is significantly deeper than that, right? Where are you about?
About 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock?
Yeah.
So we're talking about, I can show right here. So mine are about 9 o'clock right here. And Gary goes all the way up to that.
There's further to go, you know.
Oh, my
but
God.
they dial up my levels so that I don't, you know, top it out. But you know, the other piece of that is there are 2 knobs there. One is for the right ear and one's for the left ear. And in the left ear is where the producer talks. And if you don't hear all that well, sometimes you don't hear what the producer says. And sometimes that can be a good thing. I just got a hey now from the producer. Out to right center, and Jackson on the warning track to reel in Real Muto's fly ball. And Matt sets himself a 1-2-3, top of the 6th. Still a 2-2 game. Doubleheader. Mets and Marlins tied 2-2. Brandon Nimmo will lead off for the Mets in the 6th. Ford leaderboard, highest on base percentages in the league, and there's Nimmo sitting in 4th spot. Votto, who leads the league every year.
Right.
Goldschmidt and Kane, both MVP candidates, and then Nimmo ahead of Bryce Harper. It's been quite a year. Brandon doubled his first time up today, and he bounces one toward the middle of the diamond. Castro on the backhand, able to throw out Nimmo for the first out.
And that's what Harper with about 115 walks, right?
So we've got 2.5 weeks to go. Where do you come down as far as the NL MVP race is concerned?
Oh boy,
there are so many candidates, and it's, you know, there's no breakaway guy. I mean, I can think of maybe 8 players who have a shot, and that doesn't even take into account the pitchers.
That's right. I mean, Nola's probably, even though he struggled of late, been the MVP of that Philadelphia team. He almost single-handedly kept them in the race. You know, the one issue that I see that's going to make it really difficult with the MVP race is that there's some piggybacking going on each team.
Right.
You know, Freeman's got Albies, Markakis, and Acuna. Okay. Colorado's got Arenado to go along with Trevor Story, who hit a 2-run home run today. Arenado hit a home run also. Chicago,
I mean, Yelich and Kane in Milwaukee.
Yelich and Kane in Milwaukee. Baez is I think way ahead of Rizzo, but if you've seen what Rizzo's done lately, take a look at his numbers, what he's done. So
maybe the guy who winds up winning is the guy who's really the front and center guy on his team, and that would be Matt Carpenter.
Exactly. I mean, that's my pick. I think he has made the biggest difference on a team that was destined to go nowhere this year. And I think you have to add his manager, Mike Schilt, too. But a team that was destined to go nowhere this year, he put him on his back in Chicago, where he hit 6 home runs in 4 days and has been the most valuable player, and looks like he might get them in the playoffs.
Well, that's a huge series starting tonight as Bruce goes down on strikes for the second out. The Cardinals are hosting the Dodgers in a 4-game series beginning tonight. St. Louis is hanging on to the second wild card spot right now, 2 games in front of LA, and as hot as Colorado has been, the Dodgers' best chance to get in the postseason might be via the wild card.
Right.
And the Dodgers will have Kershaw going tonight against the rookie Austin Gomber for the Cardinals.
And Gomber's been great for the Cardinals.
There's that wild card. Milwaukee only a game behind the Cubs for the division lead and 2.5 up on the Cardinals in the wild card race.
You know, it's very interesting what happened to the Milwaukee team. They treaded water for a long time. They sent their closer, Corey Knebel, down to the minor leagues. So those innings he didn't get in the big leagues, kind of figured it out, and now he's back. Remember last year, he ran out of gas in the last week and a half of the season. Maybe he's better for the stretch run this year. Hader's been almost unhittable this last 2 outings.
Last year they didn't have Josh Hader either.
Right.
And I think some of the acquisitions they made have helped them as well, as Flores strikes out. Picking up Jonathan Scope, Mike Moustakas, those have been important moves for the Milwaukee Brewers as well. We played 6 in game 1 of our doubleheader. Mets and Marlins tied at 2. Seventh inning, Brian Anderson leads off against Steven Matz and goes around in the half swing, 0-1. Anderson has struck out and flied out 0 for 2. Each team with 2 runs on 2 hits. There have been only 4 hits and 3 of them have left the ballpark. Matz has not allowed a hit since the back-to-back home runs against him in the second. Your Spectrum high-speed pitch for this game should be close. No, Contra's got him by 3.
Doesn't happen very often.
1-2 to Anderson, Brinson and O'Brien to follow. Matt's over 90 pitches for the afternoon. Drew Smith is up in the Mets bullpen. One-two coming. Lifted down the right field line. Tough if it stays fair, and it does, and it bounces up into the stands for a ground rule double. So Anderson with a little pop fly that falls in, and the Marlins have a runner at second with nobody out.
Good pitch by Steven Matz. Just sawed off Brian Anderson and dumped it into right field. Even with Nimmo's speed, he couldn't get over there, and with that spin on the ball, it's going to end up in the stands.
Nice grab.
Nice Windex.
So now you got Brinson at the plate, O'Brien on deck. He's not bunting on the first pitch, and he takes the fastball outside. Brinson is struck out and grounded out, and not even looking at Freddie Gonzalez, his third base coach, for a sign. So I guess he knows the bunt is not in order.
Well, if I were Don Mattingly, I wouldn't want to spend 1 second of September watching this kid bunt. I want to watch him swing the bat.
I mean, aren't you supposed to at least make a show of flashing signs, looking for signs? Put a little doubt in the opposition's mind? I mean, because if you can draw the corners in, then you got a better chance of hitting it by him, right?
Exactly. But
it kind of gives away the game when the third base coach isn't even looking at the hitter.
Swing the bat.
Brinson gets jammed and fouls it off, and it's 2-2. Theodore O'Brien waiting on deck. Brinson reaches for a fastball and fouls it back.
Good job of fouling that off. The ball was by him.
Again, the 2-2, and he gets jammed again and fouls it off. It was Brinson, first-round draft pick by the Texas Rangers out of high school in Fort Lauderdale, from Texas to Milwaukee and then to Miami in the Christian Yelich deal, and back home in South Florida.
Yeah, he went to Milwaukee in the Jonathan Lucroy deal.
He was handed the center field job from day one and didn't hit a lick. Wound up going back to the minors, being on the disabled list, but since he's come back in September, he's been a different version of Brinson. He lofts this one to shallow center. Jackson coming on, and he gets there to make the basket catch. And Anderson back to second, 1 out.
Oh, nice play. It was good hustle by Jackson. And then he got to a point where he realized the ball was going to stay up in the air a little longer. So he had to cradle that one in his breadbasket.
That's going to be all for Steven Matz. Mickey Callaway, with Matz at 100 pitches, is going to pull him after 6 1/3. He's going to make a double switch. Jeff McNeil comes in to play second base, and Drew Smith will come out of the Mets bullpen. 2-2 game in the 7th. Call to the bullpen brought to you by Verizon. And Peter O'Brien greets Drew Smith with an opposite field hit. That's going to bring in the go-ahead run as Anderson comes in to score. And just like that, the Marlins lead at 3-2. First pitch thrown by Drew Smith. Peter O'Brien with his second RBI of the day. And Steven Matz now finds himself on the hook.
Well, Mickey Callaway did not want to match up of the guy who hit the home run, one of the home runs off Steven Matz. Brings in Drew Smith, and not a great looking swing by Peter O'Brien, but it worked. There's Drew Smith's numbers. 20th game, only scored upon 15 of his 19 appearances.
He was wonderful his last time out. 2 hitless innings against the Phillies. Jeff McNeil now playing second base. McNeil will hit 8th where the pitcher had been, and Smith goes in the 3-hole. So the Marlins, who had the early 2-0 lead, back in front 3-2. Isaac Galloway contributed to that early lead with a home run, his 3rd of the year. Well, this may not go the way Steven Matz wants it to in terms of wins and losses, but it's a day he'll always remember.
It will, because of the 2-run homer. But I think even more importantly, as we come down the stretch here, he's pitching more like you want him to pitch. He's improved this year, leaps and bounds in my estimation.
Well, he gets to sit right next to DeGrom because he's driven in all his team's runs today. Rolled to short, tough to turn 2 against Galloway's speed. McNeil will try, but not in time. They settle for the force on O'Brien, and Galloway's at first with 2 out.
Heinheimer's got some good hands, doesn't he? Gets rid of that ball quick.
It's gotten so much better.
Oh yeah, nice.
I mean, he has made such defensive progress since he first arrived. Here's Daniel Zamora up in the Mets bullpen. Now Rafael Ortega, who has hit 2 ground balls, one of them into a double play. Final line on Matz. He went 6 1/3 innings through 100 pitches, 3 runs, 3 hits, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, 2 home runs. Line just past the glove of Bruce and into right field. So Ortega's got a base hit. Galloway goes first to third. 3rd hit of the inning for the Marlins, and they have first and third with 2 out.
Boy, Ortega really turned on this pitch from Drew Smith. Screaming line drive that flies by Jay Bruce. And Galloway, haven't watched him play a lot. Boy, he can pick it up and put it down. He can run.
Well, Don Mattingly wants to see more of his rookie right-hander, so he's not going to pinch hit for Sandy Alcantara. He's got action going in the bullpen with Kyle Barraclough up, but Alcantara, who's thrown 79 pitches through 6 innings, is going to get a chance to continue now with a lead. He struck out in his 2 at-bats against Matz, and he takes a first pitch fastball for a strike.
Jay coming off the bag and the ball by him before he can get the dive in. And watch Galloway run. It's a nice stride for a big man.
Galloway, the runner goes from first, and Ortega will take second without a throw. So Ortega has his 5th stolen base and now 2 in scoring position. I was going to say about Galloway, you know, he played 947 games in the minor leagues before he finally got his shot this year. 11 minor league seasons. But his best tool has always been his legs.
I always admire those guys that can do it. I mean, stay in the minor leagues and make them tear the uniform off your back.
And that's below the knees, and Smith falls behind Alcantara 3-1.
Now, the way Alcantara swings or has swung the bat so far, as a manager, I would put the take on and not swing the bat here. Going to get the same pitch 3-2 as you get 3-1. Smith throws the strike.
And it's outside, ball 4, and the bases are loaded. So Drew Smith really hurting himself walking a guy, a pitcher who's never had a big league hit. And now the bases are loaded for Miguel Rojas. Watch SNY Mets games on the go on any device with live streaming presented by Verizon. Just visit SNY.TV or download the NBC Sports app today for live streaming coverage of every SNY Mets game. Well, let's check out the road ahead. Presented by Tri-State GMC. One more game to play today, and then the final road trip of the season. 3 in Boston starting tomorrow night, 3 in Philly, 4 in Washington, and then the Mets come home for the final week of the season to play the Braves and the Marlins.
Playing the Cathedral tomorrow.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice and all, but don't give me the Cathedral.
I'm just taking it from the town, the movie.
So here's Rojas trying to bust this game open with the Marlins up 3-2 in the 7th. Rojas is 0 for 3, 2 fly balls and a comebacker. Bases loaded, 2 out. And a first pitch curveball out of the strike zone from Smith, ball 1. And Drew does not look nearly as sharp as he has in recent outings. Anthony Swarzak gets up behind him in the Mets bullpen. Ball and a strike to Rojas. Good curveball, has him wheeling, and it's 1-2.
Well, obviously, when Dave Island came out there, he wanted Smith to make sure he used that breaking ball. 2 of the 3 pitches have been breaking balls to Rojas.
Good job by Plawecki to smother that one with a runner at third. One-two coming to Rojas. Goes back to the curveball, and again Plawecki goes down to get it. 2-2. Drew Smith has certainly pitched well enough coming down the stretch of this season to factor into the Mets' plans for next year. Jams Rojas and he fouls it off. There are going to be a lot of young relievers fighting for spots in that bullpen in spring training next year. Question is whether the Mets are going to go out and get themselves a front line reliever to go with what they clearly have with Gazelman and Lugo heading up that bullpen. Swarzak will be back next year as well, of course. Would they bring back Jerry Blevins? Will they go out and try and get a closer? 2-2 coming. Curveball lined and caught by Reinheimer to end the inning. Perfectly timed leap by Jack Reinheimer to steal a hit from Rojas and save a couple of runs. Elevation at the apex. Reinheimer snags it. something we've been following all year. The possibility that for the first time in Major League history, there'll be more strikeouts than walks in the game. Strikeouts than hits in the game. The hits had taken the lead through late August, but since the call-ups and the cooler weather, the strikeouts have made a big comeback. And going into today, there have been 2 more strikeouts than hits in Major League Baseball.
About when we started in 2006 with SNY. I mean, crazy, right?
13,000 more hits than strikeouts then, now almost dead even. The official tally right now is 36,955 strikeouts, 36,953 hits. Sounds like they might need a recount.
Yeah.
Beware the hanging Chad. Michael Conforto leads off the home 7th with the Mets down a run, and he rolls over one to the right side. O'Brien to Alcantara, 1 pitch and 1 out in the bottom of the 7th.
So Steve Gelbs and Wayne Randazzo are joined by Gary Cohen in the latest episode of Rain Delay Theater, the podcast. Gary shares stories about the legendary Bob Murphy and reveals the secrets behind his massive tie collection. Just search Rain Delay Theater and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts.
I find that you and Keith are reading way too many promos these days, which means that I'm getting way too much attention.
No, it means that you have 30 of the finest years on radio and TV that anyone's ever had.
Well, I'll be looking forward to year 31 when no one will be paying attention again.
Well, we'll have something with Keith next year we'll read.
Well, Keith will turn 65, by the way, in a few weeks. So, you know, that's a milestone worth celebrating. Can we like get him a laminated Medicare card? Present it to him. Oh, there's Keith.
Yes.
Chatting up the young guy.
Yeah, and we haven't had Gelbs on air all day. No, we did with Gloria.
Have you noticed something about the 2 of them sitting next to each other? That's hooked down the line by Frazier, foul. You notice that Gelbs has more gray hair than Keith?
Well,
how is that possible?
Keith's juicing.
Now he's asking Keith whether he can do anything about it. Think about Steve, since he took this job, he's aged in presidential years.
Yeah, well, that'll happen sometimes. I have nothing to say. I'm full of gray now.
Well, I have nothing to say. I don't have any hair at all. Frazier has popped up and walked in this game. Mets haven't had a hit since the 2nd when Matz hit his first big league home run. They've had just 1 base runner since, and that was Frazier's walk. And he hits this one off the fists, off the mound. And Castro throws him out for the 2nd out.
No, I know it's 8 days ago, but Sandy Alcantara, his last start against the Phillies, went 7 innings, only gave up 3 hits, no runs in that game, but very impressed with his ability to pitch to contact, and maybe that's another reason that he might not ever be the high strikeout pitcher. Can be just as effective, though.
He's got 5 strikeouts today through 6 2/3. So in 3 starts now, Alcantara's gone 18 2/3 innings and allowed 8 hits. It's pretty good in any level.
He works quickly. He's got great mound presence that belies his 23 years. He's a keeper.
Made his big league debut as a reliever last year with the Cardinals, pitched in 8 games there before he came to the Marlins in the Marcelo Zuna deal, and immediately was installed as the Marlins' #1 prospect, and he has looked every bit of that the 2 times the Mets have seen him this year. Austin Jackson lays off the slider, and it's 1-2.
He's going to fill out. He's going to get a little bigger and stronger. If you notice when he gets ahead and throws that breaking ball, he always seems to locate it down and out of the strike zone. It's not that easy when you're young.
Marlins keeping their bullpen busy. Looks like Adam Conley is up. But Alcantara trying to finish off the 7th inning, about to throw his 90th pitch of the day. 2-2 to Jackson. And he pounds one into the ground, a foul ball. Let's answer our Verizon trivia question. We asked who won National League Rookie of the Year in 1977 when Steve Henderson finished 2nd. It was the Hawk in Montreal.
You know, but just because of your competitive nature, no one really, you don't fear anyone who comes in the box. Except the Hawk. He might have had a tiny bit of fear when he got in there. He was quite menacing.
4 home runs against you.
Yeah.
68 at bats. It's not terrible. Sure, he has better home run percentages against other guys. Alcantara strikes out Jackson, and that'll do it for the Mets in the 7th. Alcantara's retired 10 in a row. 6 strikeouts for the rookie. He's got a 3-2 lead after 7. Half an inning of a Mets game on SNY. Just go to sny.tv/kidcaster and enter your child's video audition for a chance to win the 2018 SNY Kidcaster contest. It's going to be a busy final week of the season. David Wright's swan song, the Kidcaster. We're gonna have an outdoor broadcast that last Friday of the season. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
I think that's your last game that last Friday.
It is my last game. I will say.
That's where we're going to be.
I will say if the game is local that I do that Sunday, more close, I'm going to try to come to the game just as a fan. You know, that's going to be a pretty cool day. Packed house.
Well, the Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, not for us in the stands. For Saturday.
You know, I mean, needless to say, in the latter stages of a season where the team has no prospect of going to the postseason, crowds tend to be rather small.
Yeah.
But I would suspect that with the news today and a couple of weeks to prepare, the crowd is going to be sizable for that game on the 29th.
It's going to be an event.
Yeah.
It really is.
And there'll be, you know, there were some tears shed today.
Yeah.
There were some tears shed yesterday with the Jay Harwitz press conference. There are going to be a lot of tears shed that night.
I think there's also going to be a lot of joy in fans who maybe tailgate and are talking about their favorite time when they came to a game and saw David do something extraordinary.
Strike 3 called. Castro caught looking by Anthony Swarzak. First batter he faces. 1 out in the 8th. Swarzak's second appearance in the series. Gave up a home run to J.T. Riddle in the first game.
Tom Hallion, best strike 3 call in baseball. Listen.
It's almost full Leslie Nielsen there.
Way to go, Tommy. Nice.
Here's Real Muto, and he chases a slider for strike 1.
You don't always get the full effect of that because, you know, of the sparse crowd here for the first game.
Tommy didn't cheat anybody.
He didn't. Well, I think all the umpires have one call, so they don't, you know, the crowd is smaller, turn it down a notch. They keep it full metal jack.
It's not like the PA system, which they can adjust to the size of the crowd.
Of course.
Realmuto fouls off a fastball, and it's 1-2. Well, it's a long time from now after the Game 2 postgame, but we want to get you ready for Geico Sports Night as NFL Week number 2 begins. And, of course, all the baseball news as well. Geico Sports Night, tonight and every night. After the postgame, or 11 o'clock, whichever comes first. Delta 324 from Atlanta.
Every 2 hours.
2-2 coming. And Realmuto flies one foul. That'll go out of play.
Something was brought up today. David talked about it a little bit, but I thought it was a little interesting that on that final Saturday when he starts, if Reyes will get the start at shortstop. Seems fitting.
If not start, at least run him out there for an inning so that they can play on that left side of the infield together one more time. I mean, when you think about it, that was about as dynamic a left side of the infield as any major league team has had in the last 15 years.
Well, when I think about the Phillies and the Mets going head to head, it was kind of, you know, Howard, Utley and Rollins against Wright and Reyes.
I mean, those guys, as Bruce chases this foul pop-up, that'll go out of play. Those guys were the building blocks for the team that wound up going to the postseason in 2006, right? I mean, Reyes came up in 2003, just before his 20th birthday. Wright came up the following year when he was 21. And you know, they got their feet under them over the next couple of years, and then when the Mets blossomed in that colossus that they were for the regular season in 2006, Mets put together enough parts around them to be a champion, but they were the young linchpins of that team.
Yeah, John Ricco was telling an interesting story today at the press conference that, you know, David was in Double-A and they were considering bringing him up to the major leagues. That's how great he was playing at the Double-A level. They gave him a cup of coffee in Triple-A and then brought him up, and he was really dynamic since day one.
And what I remember about when David came up in 2004, 21 years old, is how incredibly poised he was from day one. I mean, you know what he's like now, and how comfortable he is in front of a microphone. But I remember him coming into a press conference room and just commanding the room from the first moment he arrived in the major leagues, as though he were already a 10-year veteran. And yet, within the clubhouse, was incredibly deferential to the point where he would carry Cliff Floyd's bags.
Well, it was
at Cliff's insistence.
Yeah, it was a different time and age.
There's ball 4, and Realmuto's on with a walk. It was a different age, but he was so in tune with what his place was as a rookie, even though he was such a front and center spokesman for the team almost from day one. He still knew how to be deferential to the veterans within the clubhouse setting.
Some players have a feel. He's always had a great feel on how to be a great pro. Always.
I mean, I remember that it was within the first year or two that he was in the major leagues as an incredibly young player that we first started talking about, you know, someday maybe he'll be a captain. And, you know, it eventually came to pass, but it was so obvious early on that he had that way about him, and that people would listen to him, would gravitate to him, and that he would have the gravitas to be the linchpin of a really structured clubhouse. Line to left, and Anderson's retired for the second out.
Well,
Realmuto back to first.
Mets had so much to do with his development. That part of his development came from his mom and dad and his brothers.
he's an older brother, like you're an older brother. He's the oldest of 4 brothers, just like you.
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know he had 3 younger. I wonder if he is as brutal as I was to my 3 younger brothers.
Here's Lewis Brinson, who's 0 for 3, and he takes it high. But the one thing that David made clear through this entire process over the last month or so is that the one thing that was so important to him was to get on the field one more time so that his 2 young daughters, who have never been alive when he's been in a major league game, could finally be there to witness that. And you know, his older daughter Olivia is only 2, and his younger daughter Madison's just an infant, and they may not remember it years from now, but it's incredibly important to him to know that they will be able to watch him in a big league game, or at least be in the setting where he plays in a major league game.
Well, this is a couple of years after the no-hitter by Santana here on the June 1st. And he was in Baltimore Orioles spring training camp, and I saw Johan, and I said, what do you think? Are you going to keep going? He goes, my youngest son's never seen me play. He's my inspiration. Happens.
Sorry, Cash.
Yeah.
Brinson lays off, and it's in the dirt, 2-2.
I'm going to be like the Marlins had this happen with Tito Martinez. I'm going to be like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to put the ball in the tee.
Well, I remember your oldest son Tyler being around when you were still playing with the Mets.
He did. He used to love the father mother Sunday family days here. Not here, but at Shea Stadium.
And did Jordan get to see you play?
Never got to see me play. No. I mean, I was still playing, but he didn't. Just wasn't. I think he was 2 years old when I retired, maybe, so not old enough. And he would have loved to, because he loves baseball.
I remember our first year together. He hung out with us the whole summer.
Spent the
12 years old.
Spent the whole summer. He was on the headset. Probably heard things that no 12-year-old should ever hear.
Real Muto will be running 3-2, 2 out with Brinson at the plate. And he drives one out to left center. Coming on is Jackson, and that retires the side. So Swarzak gets through the top of the 8th. Still a 1-run game in game 1 of our doubleheader. Up to first base, JT Riddle comes into play short as the Marlins go for defense with a 1-run lead in the 8th. SNY's Super Slow Motion is brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. Nice hang time.
I mean,
Reinheimer.
Serious athlete is Reinheimer.
Well, Sandy Alcantara still out there for the 8th inning. His first 2 big league starts, he's gone 5 and 7, and now he'll try and go beyond that. Kevin Plawecki leads off in the home 8th. Plawecki drew a walk, scored a run in front of Matz's home run in the 2nd. Since that Matz home run, the Mets have had only 1 more base runner, a walk to Frazier in the 4th. He was caught stealing. So Alcantara's faced the minimum since 2 out in the 2nd. Ball to strike to Plawecki. Jeff McNeil is on deck in the 8 hole, and then Reinheimer. And Plawecki jumps back with a fastball from Alcantara, 2-1. We're in the 7th inning now in Denver. The Rockies still leading the Diamondbacks 5-2 behind Kyle Freeland, who is just incredible pitching at altitude.
He'll go to 15 and 7.
But I mean, his Coors Field ERA is phenomenal.
It's in the 2s or something,
yeah.
Isn't it?
Not supposed to be that way, but he's from Colorado and obviously has figured out how to pitch in the high altitude.
Or is not afraid of it, yeah.
2-2 to Plawecki. And he just missed. Full count.
Big hitter for Alcantara and the Marlins. Even bigger for the Mets and Plawecki.
Might be his last batter with a left-hand hitter on deck. They've got Conley, the lefty, ready in the bullpen. And Plawecki fouls back the fastball. Alcantara's high pitch count in the majors has been 98. He's at that right now. His high pitch count in the minors this year was 106. And Plawecki takes inside ball 4, so Kevin walks for the 2nd time. The Mets get the tying run aboard, and here comes Don Mattingly, and that's going to be it for Alcantara. So he goes 7 innings plus, and the lefty Conley comes in to face McNeil. Another terrific outing for the rookie Sandy Alcantara in his 3rd big league start. He'll leave with a lead. 3-2 Miami in the 8th. We'll be right back to Citi Field.
Yeah, he pitched in the first game of the series behind Jose Urania. 5 up, 5 down for Conley, who looked outstanding.
One of those he retired was Jeff McNeil. Got him on a ground ball. He comes in to face McNeil. Is up for the first time today after coming in on a double switch. Jeff had 3 hits last night, including a triple. Drove in a couple of runs. He's got 3 3-hit games in his last 4 starts. Now he bats with a tying run on first and takes a fastball down for ball 1. See, now McNeil's taking a long look down at Glenn Sherlock to see what the signs are.
Yeah, that's what.
And Sherlock is flashing signs. They may mean nothing, but at least you put a little doubt into the other team's mind.
It's going to be a really interesting roundtable evaluation of the front office folks of the Mets once they get a GM or whatever GM they decide on McNeil as a player. It's going to be interesting.
Well, how can you not like what you've seen so far?
You have to.
The question is whether you believe it. And he does square to bunt and fouls it off. And now it's a ball and 2 strikes.
Well, Mickey Callaway knows how good he is early in the count. Once he didn't put that first ball in play, he had him bunt. He's got 1 strike left.
Jack Reinheimer in the 9-hole is on deck, and then Brandon Nimmo. Nobody up in the Marlins bullpen. Plawecki at first after a leadoff walk. And McNeil watches low and away. That's a heck of a stop by Real Muto, and it's 2-2.
Real Muto got a little lucky. I think backhanded this one in the dirt. Correct me if I'm wrong. No, he got the glove out, turned over. He couldn't get the body over in time.
The hip save.
Almost with Conley, you got to anticipate the ball being in the dirt. He's a little bit wild.
His overall numbers aren't great, but he's been great against the Mets. And he just misses to McNeil, and it's 3-2. A couple of close pitches in this inning for Alcantara and for Conley. So Plawecki at first, nobody out. McNeil contact hitter. Do you send him?
No, not lefty against Conley.
Not going. And McNeil takes strike 3 call and goes away unhappy. 1 out.
I think McNeil thinks it's the same pitch that it was on the 3-1 count, but sorry, the 2-1 count, but this is a little better pitch. That's on the corner and on the knees. It's got to be a cheap pitch cast, doesn't it, guys? There we go.
Ask and ye shall receive, and it's always a strike on the cheap pitch cast.
On the corner. Oh.
Here's Jack Reinheimer taking outside.
Should have called my kid cheap pitch cast.
Reinheimer's taking a call 3rd strike and flying to center. He's 0 for 2. Mets have had 2 hits all day. They both came in the first 2 innings. Double by Nimmo to lead off the first. The 2-run homer by Matz in the second, and that has been that. After the Mets put up 13 runs and 14 hits last night. 2-1 to Reinheimer. Don't forget, the second game of our doubleheader begins shortly after the first one ends. Jason Vargas goes for the Mets. Jeff Brigham will go for the Marlins, and Keith got his tie on. He must be ready for the second game.
He's a gamer.
I mean, he came in civvies and he's spiffed out. Well, I think he even combed his hair. Did you comb your hair? Looks very nice.
He has his, you don't see this, but he has his stirrups on underneath the pants. He's ready to go.
Reinheimer takes the slider off the plate. It's 3-2. So now 3-2, 1 out. Do you think about sending Plawecki?
Reinheimer, I don't think you know. Lefty, righty, yeah, I'd send him. Try to be aggressive.
Not going, and Reinheimer fouls off the fastball at 97.
I just think because they're not paying any attention to him over there. Let me check that. Against a left-handed Conley, I would not send Plawecki because he'll get such a late jump that it won't even matter if he hits the ball on the ground. They'll still be able to turn 2.
Reinheimer hits it down to first. Bobbled briefly by Rojas. Gets the out at first, but not at second. So the Mets didn't put him in motion, and still the Marlins are unable to turn the double play because Rojas couldn't handle it cleanly. So now the tying run's at second with 2 out.
Rojas more a middle infielder, but that ball came up a little bit. You know, he almost made this play happen because about 3/4 of the way, Plawecki wasn't sure where the ball was, so he slowed up a little bit, but luckily got in safely.
So now a chance for Nimmo with the tying run in scoring position at 2 out. Brandon hit an opposite field double to lead off the first inning. Since then he's grounded out twice. And he bloops one over short. Riddle goes back to get it, and that retires the side. So Conley retires Nimmo on the bloop and works around the leadoff walk by Alcantara. That sends us to the 9th with the Marlins up a run. All right, guys, we go to the 9th. Jerry Blevins on to pitch. JT Riddle up for the first time for the Marlins after coming in for defense. And takes the first pitch curveball for a strike.
Last month has been better for Jerry. Only 4 runs allowed in his last 18+ innings. First batter faced numbers are good. Splits are upside down.
So I just found something out, Ronnie.
Yeah.
Keith stopped in here before with his tie and was telling us how he went on the radio with Howie and Wayne, and he did some play-by-play, and it kind of went over my head. But apparently he actually did play-by-play.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
No, it wasn't just stopping in while Howie did the play-by-play. Keith actually did play-by-play, which leads me to an obvious question. How come we never allow Keith to do play-by-play?
We should.
Don't you think tonight would be the night?
Yes.
Now that he's got a couple of radio reps under his belt.
And you be the analyst, Gary. It'd be hilarious. It'd be fantastic.
I might need an analyst by the end of the night.
I bet you he won't ask you an inappropriate question at some point.
You
that
think?
You'll have to answer.
Well, I give those guys credit for you know, letting the bull loose in the china shop. 2-2 to Riddle, and the curveball fouled at the plate. Kyle Barraclaw is up in the Marlins bullpen. Looks like he'll get the save chance in the bottom of the ninth. Isaac Galloway on deck, and then Rafael Ortega as the Marlins look for insurance in the ninth. And a full count to Riddle. Three-two, and he struck him out. Got him with a fastball on the foul tip. One out of the top of the ninth. And now a quick message from City.
Think fast. What?
So Blevins has the first out in the top of the ninth, and now Isaac Galloway, who homered back in the second, the back end of back-to-back home runs. Peter O'Brien hit the first one. That put the Mets in an early 2-0 hole. Steven Matz hit a home run of his own to tie the game, which was fine. The only problem is the Mets haven't had another hit since. Galloway's also drawn a walk today. He's 1 for 2. I'm in that Ronnie, that caught in between today and tonight mode. I keep checking the clock because I have no idea what time it is. It's 5:30 now. It's a very odd day after a very odd yesterday. It's been a rather odd season.
It has been.
I mean, think of all that's happened in the last 24 hours with the rain delays and the press conferences and the doubleheader today.
I was in that press dining room for about 4 hours last night.
Galloway strikes out on the curveball, so Blevins has back-to-back strikeouts.
Wasn't really that hungry, so I didn't eat, and I just kind of watched, as a good curveball by Blevins, kind of all the machinations that happened in that press dining room over 2 hours, listening to the Wu-Tang Clan. It's a very interesting thing to do. It was wild. It was like a soundtrack for that dining room.
Probably very appropriate. A lot of comings and goings in there too, I would think, with all the people wandering around during 5.5 hours of rain delay. Here's Rafael Ortega.
The best part is everyone, you know, I put the headphones on because everyone kept asking me, you know, have you heard what's going on? This is what I heard. They're going to play 2 no matter what, or whatever. I mean, everyone had a theory on what they're going to do, which happens in every rain delay. So I put the headphones in to kind of stay away now, you know. And the people still came over and knocked on my shoulder and said, what's going on? So
your own little kabuki theater was getting interrupted.
Exactly. You know, like Pink Floyd to the Wizard of Oz. That's kind of what it was like.
And now all I can think of is elephants.
Yes.
2-1 to Ortega, who's 1 for 3 today. And Blevins pours a fastball in for a strike. 2-2. Well, today's starters brought to you by People's United Bank. Sandy Alcantara, 3rd big league start and 3rd outstanding one. He's in line for the win. Steven Matz pitched well, but he's on the short end. In the bottom of the ninth, the Mets will have Bruce, the pitcher spot, and Conforto due up, presumably against Kyle Barraclaw, who is getting ready in the Miami bullpen. Blevins has struck out his first 2 hitters, and he gets Ortega as well. Blevins strikes out the side in the top of the ninth. Mets will come to bat in the bottom of the ninth in game 1, hoping Jay Bruce could provide some heroics after his grand slam last night. 3-2 Miami going to the bottom of the ninth. Adam Conley will stay in to face Jay Bruce to start the bottom of the ninth. Isaac Galloway moves from right field to left field. Nerius Sierra comes in to play right. And Bruce swings and misses at a first pitch sinker from Adam Conley.
Conley got 5 outs in the first game of the series. He might be asked to get 6 outs in this series.
First one the other night was a line drive out from Bruce. Pitcher's spot is due up next. Ahmed Rosario is out on deck to pinch hit. Kyle Barraclough continues in the bullpen. That'll be an interesting call for Don Mattingly. Does he bring in the right-hander to face Rosario? Or leave Conley in with Conforto due up after Rosario? StatCast AI powered by Amazon Web Services. You see the shift against Bruce.
I think it depends on how he does against Bruce. If he gets through Bruce cleanly, I think he stays in.
Bruce pops it up. Rojas into foul territory. And that's the first out in the bottom of the ninth. So Conley gets his man. He's retired 4 in a row. And now Rosario will be the pinch hitter. Rosario slugged a 3-run homer last night. His 8th home run of the season. And here comes Mattingly. And he wants to know, has Rosario been announced? He gets the affirmative answer, and he's going to bring in Barraclough to try and get the final 2 outs. So Conley's work is done. He goes an inning and a third, doesn't allow a base runner. And now Barraclough will go for the save opportunity. We have the Marlins up 3-2 with 1 out in the bottom of the ninth. We'll be right back to Citi Field. Brought to you by T-Mobile. One shining moment for Steven Matz tonight.
I mean, his first home run, a bomb, almost 400 feet. High fives all around.
And a little teasing from the captain. Now Kyle Barraclough will bid for his 11th save of the year.
11th save, 10 out of 16 opportunities. He's had like 2 seasons. His beginning of the season was tremendous. Then he went on the DL with some back stiffness. Struggled since then.
Dom Smith will pinch hit for the pinch hitter. Rosario had been announced. Smith will take his spot against the right-hander. Dom had a double and a 2-run homer last night. And he goes after the changeup by Barraclough. And it's 0-2.
Well, we've seen Dominic Smith, I think in last night's ball game, he got a hit off a high changeup.
That was against Ben Meyer, who just couldn't get anybody out.
Barraclough, when he first came up, outstanding fastball, great slider, but always tends to walk too many people.
1-2 coming. Just missed away. 2-2.
Halligan's had a good game behind the plate. He's been solid. Hasn't wavered. On time.
He's given us good sound.
Yeah, good sound.
And Dom nubs one. Out to give it Real Muto. 2 out.
Well, the former shortstop's got speed. Real Muto, he made that play look easy. That ball was almost 3/4 of the way to the pitcher's mound.
Fastest catcher in the game.
Yep.
So the Mets are down to their final out in game 1 of this doubleheader. And it's Conforto, who's had a rough day at the plate, a foul pop-up and 2 weak ground balls, facing Barraclough, against whom he is 0 for 5 in his career. Second game starts 20 or 30 minutes after this one ends. Jason Vargas will pitch for the Mets. Jeff Brigham, second big league start for Miami. And the slider low and into Conforto, ball 1. Barraclough trying to nail it down for Sandy Alcantara, who went 7 innings, allowed just 2 hits in his 3rd big league start. And Conforto drives it to deep right field, and that will tie the game. Conforto into the Coca-Cola corner to get the Mets even. Number 25 for Conforto, and it's 3-3.
7 now blown save opportunities for Kyle Barraclough. That was a high changeup. The one that Dominic Smith missed, Conforto did not.
4 home runs in his last 5 games, and Conforto's second half resurgence continues, and the Mets get even with 2 out in the 9th.
Just middle with that changeup and not missed by Conforto. Upper tank, nice catch.
Grab. Now Frazier. So they took out Conley, who was looking great, brought in Barraclough, and this happens. Picture perfect swing by Conforto to get the Mets even. And the slider off the plate to Frazier, 1-1. Todd is 0 for 2 and a walk in this game. Well, the Mets went from the 2nd inning to the 9th without a hit between Matz's home run and now Conforto's tying home run. And Frazier drives it deep left field, back near the wall. It's out of here. The Mets win the ball game. Conforto and Frazier go back to back to win it for New York. That's the way to start a doubleheader. 2 out, bottom of the 9th, nobody on base, and Conforto and Frazier with lightning and thunder, and the Mets win it 4-3.
Not only that, they haven't sniffed a hit since Matz hit the 2-run home run in the 2nd inning. Down to their last out, and Conforto and Frazier give them a win. Like he's trying to come away with a fastball, ended up right down the middle, maybe a cutter even, and Frazier didn't miss it. Off the bat flipped 3/4 of the way down first base, and a no-doubter.
3rd career walk-off home run for Todd Frazier, and the first for the Mets since Brandon Nimmo on July 11th, and Barraclough knew it from the crack of the bat. Conforto did his job and watches Frazier seal the deal. Mets had just 4 hits, but 3 home runs. Matz, and then Conforto and Frazier in the 9th. And the Mets yank one out, 4-3.
On the day their all-time third baseman said he's about to be done, their third baseman now with the big hit.
Game summary presented by Jim Beam. Jerry Blevins struck out the side in the top of the ninth. He winds up with the win. Barraclough gives up the back-to-back home runs to Conforto and Frazier, and the Mets rise from the dead to win this one. They've taken 2 out of 3, and now they'll go for the doubleheader sweep in just a few minutes. And for every Mets win, the Mets organization is proud to contribute $2,500 to Northwell Health and the Katz Institute for Women's Health. For more information, visit northwell.edu/cats. This one brings the total contribution so far this season to $167,500. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Fidelis Care. Here today, here tomorrow, here to stay. By your tri-state Audi dealers, take a test drive today. By Geico, over 75 years of savings and service. And by Budweiser, the legendary lager for legendary moments. Final score in game 1 of our doubleheader. The Mets 4, the Marlins 3. Game 2 starts in just a few minutes. Jason Vargas goes for the Mets. Jeff Brigham pitches for Miami. Great catch to tie the game. And while he's still celebrating, Todd Frazier unleashes the winner. Now for Ron Darling, Steve Gelbs, and our entire SNY crew, I'm Gary Cohen at Citi Field. Time for WB Mason post-game live. Let's join Gary Apple and Nelson Figueroa.
Great game.